This week on the No More Late Fees podcast, Jackie and I are joined by producer and director Taylor Morden. You may recognize Taylor's work, which includes The Last Blockbuster, Pick It Up, Ska in the 90s, and Here's to Life, the Story of The Refreshments. Welcome, Taylor.
Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
We have been counting down to have you on the show. Like, truly, Jackie and I watched the documentary, The Last Blockbuster, I want to say before we started the podcast, right, Jackie?
Yes.
Yeah. And we watched it separately, but we both collectively cried. We did not realize how much we had that strong affinity and connection to Blockbuster. You know, when you work somewhere, you're like, oh, I can't wait to get out of here. But it was a great movie. We really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
You're the exact target audience. People who used to work at Blockbuster. So
it was very much like, just by the end, I was sobbing. I'm like, I'll never be able to get back to that place.
What made you decide to do this topic in particular?
I was living in Bend, Oregon. I had moved back there. I was on the East Coast for a while, Washington, D.C., and moved back home to Oregon. I'm from out here. And this was 2015. And I was just, driving around town, learning, this is a new town, got to figure it out. And every once in a while I would pass a Blockbuster sign. But knowing, in DC, those are everywhere. It doesn't mean there's a Blockbuster there. It's more expensive to take the sign down than it is to just leave it. So they're all over the country, all over the world, actually. People send me pictures all the time of, look, there's a sign. It still says Blockbuster. I'm in Wyoming. Cool. Love it. I honestly do love it. But I would see the sign and think, okay, it's 2015, 2016. They all closed in 2014. Everybody knows that. So that's neat that there's a sign. And then one day my curiosity got the better of me and I pulled over. I was going to just look in the windows of this old abandoned Blockbuster, and to shock, it was open and there were people in there renting movies. It was like no one had told these people that it closed. They just kept going. They didn't get the memo where they don't have the internet here in Bend, Oregon, or whatever the thing was. And so I went in and it just the nostalgia just rocked me. And it's not like it had been that long, because I was a big video store person. So I was going right up until they closed, which had only been a couple of years, right? My previous last trip to Blockbuster was probably in 2013, 2014. And whenever I find a mom and pop video store, I'm going in, and usually I can't rent something because I'm traveling. So I'll buy something, like a previously viewed VHS or DVD. So it's not like it was nostalgia for 10, 15 years ago. It had been 2 years since I had been in a Blockbuster, but it still hit me because this one, it was a little dated. It was like, they haven't updated things in a while. The computers there were from the early 90s and everything was just exactly how you remember if you picture Blockbuster in your head. Right. They were still on DVD. Blu-ray had been out for a long time. They had very few Blu-rays, all DVDs, it was 2004. And so the filmmaker in me was just curious of what is happening here? Who are these people that are renting these movies? Who works here? What is happening? And so I asked the manager, who is the star of the movie, would it be okay if I started bringing cameras around and can I interview you? I don't know what it's for. I have so many questions. And we did that very early in 2017. And so about 4 years later, we finished the movie. So I spent 4 years off and on just going to Blockbuster as often as possible.
That's awesome.
So obviously the star of the movie is the manager who's the mama of the Blockbuster. She's amazing. And so it's almost like she was the little engine that could. She just did not stop. She did not want to hear no. I found that to be really inspiring. And I'm surprised that with the success of that movie, the Blockbuster game, there's the new Blockbuster TV show coming out, that we haven't seen something like a pop-up store or them trying to do something. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. Well, there was a pop-up store in 2018, I think, for
Mhm.
Deadpool 2. They did a pop-up Blockbuster in London that only carried Deadpool 2 on VHS. And that was very cool. And I've seen, because again, people text me these things and tag me on social media like, oh, I found this Blockbuster thing. And there was a pop-up shop in LA that was just clothing.
Mm.
But it looked like a Blockbuster. And so they're a little bit, it's tricky, right? Because Dish owns the name, Dish Network.
Right.
And like we had to license the logo to make our own DVDs and VHS copies. So we had to like deal with them. So I know how it can be. It's like time consuming, and it seems like they just don't have any interest in opening more stores. Like they'd rather license it for a t-shirt or like the Netflix show or whatever, because it's easier. And
Yeah.
it's, on the internet, you can reach a worldwide audience. If you sell a coffee cup that says Blockbuster on it, they get their cut and anybody can buy it. But if you open a store, it's like, well, first off, how can you open a video rental store in 2022?
Right.
You could open, like I said, a clothing store that sells Blockbuster t-shirts, no problem. But they also sell those at Target. So, I
Right.
mean, it seems like it's a good idea in theory. Like I would love to open a Blockbuster,
Yeah.
but I was just at Blockbuster, the last one,
Mhm.
4 days ago. I went there. I live a few hours away now, so I was there in town, and I went in and I was talking with Sandy, the manager, about how the documentary and all the hype and the Netflix show, everything impacts the store. And she said they get a ton more business, but it's not people renting movies, right?
Right.
So even that store is shifting to sell baseball caps and coffee mugs and magnets and postcards and whatever. And people are just renting fewer and fewer movies. So it does seem like somebody would want to open a Blockbuster, but I don't think it would be what we remember. It
Right.
would be a new thing.
Yeah. I mean, Jackie and I have, like, if we could do anything, we would love to do like a pop-up experience, moving from city to city and not necessarily, again, like you're saying, renting movies, but to have that just so people know, get that feel again, of going to Blockbuster, because it's such a nostalgic experience. And just, we want to go to Bend and see the store because we haven't seen a store in years. Like, I don't even remember the last time I went to a Blockbuster. I lived in New York for a few years towards the end of, Blockbuster, and there weren't many in New York left.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, were you surprised how well the movie did and how many people just gravitated towards it?
Yes and no. I mean, we couldn't have anticipated the hype from being on Netflix and like the irony and it going viral in the way that it did. But, I've made a few documentaries, and this was the one, even at the very beginning, when I first started taking cameras over there, when I would talk to friends and family and just people and acquaintances, this was the one thing that everybody's eyes lit up and they were like, what do you mean there's still a Blockbuster? What are you talking about? And they had all the same questions I did. So I knew to a certain extent that people would be fascinated, by whatever we put together. And then you could also tell, like when we did celebrity outreach, and like most people we asked said, yes, I'd love to talk about Blockbuster Video in your Blockbuster movie. So it's different than anything else I've worked on because of the way people responded to it. So I kind of had a feeling that if we could get on a platform like Netflix or like a Hulu or an Amazon, like a big worldwide platform, that people would watch it. And then that happened. But there was a long period where we had to convince people, it was not instant. We finished the movie right at the beginning of the pandemic. So we couldn't do film festivals, and we couldn't do like the way I had done my other movies, which is like rent out theaters and take it on tour and like try to get to the right people. And so we had to, sort of shop it around during this pandemic, which I think might have helped us because other people weren't able to make movies. So we had this little indie thing, and they were like, well, we can't make, a new season of Stranger Things, so I guess we'll pick this thing up.
Well, it looks like the pandemic worked out for you in this movie, just a bit, not everything.
Silver lining.
Yeah.
Speaking of the celebrities in the movie, Jackie and I have a few favorites that are in it, and you got Kevin Smith is one of our favorites. Yeah, I think Jackie's having a heart attack just even thinking about him right now.
He's my favorite director. I've loved him since Clerks, and he shows up on screen, but he is that type of person that's just down for anything and loves nostalgia, has a huge collection himself. So I'm like, it's not surprising that he's like, sure.
Right. He's in a lot of documentaries. We're not that special, but he was on our very short list of people who used to work at video stores who went on to make movies, right? And so we reached out to him pretty early, and he said yes, but then it still took like a year to schedule. He's a very busy human being. But just like you, I was a huge Clerks fan, and Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma. It's all like, those were some of my favorite movies. And so it was a huge deal for me when we were like, oh, we're going to put Kevin Smith in our movie about video stores, and he's going to talk about being in a video store. And so cool.
That was amazing.
Yeah. Jamie Kennedy, we, obviously love the Scream series.
And the fact he was in the promotional videos.
Yes,
that was awesome.
Which we didn't know. That was a real surprise. Like we thought of him because of his character in Scream,
right,
at the video store, right? Like he played this iconic, basically blockbuster employee in one of the biggest movies, of that genre of all time. So we were like, oh, and my producing partner, Zeke, knew someone who knew him, right? So we were like, oh, let's get a hold of Jamie Kennedy. That'll be cool, and maybe he'll do it. And who knows what he's doing? I haven't seen him since Son of the Mask, but we reached out, and he agreed to do it, but we had no idea about those promotional videos because they weren't online when we were doing, when we were starting out. And he sprung that on me in the interview. And then also he had all those commercials like on a CD-ROM. That's how we got them.
That's awesome.
Now I think they're on YouTube. You can find them, but it was crazy because I didn't know that. I didn't remember those commercials at all. I remember the ones with the hamster and the rabbit.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think there was one with the guy from American Pie was in one of those commercials.
I remember that was for Titanic when it was coming out.
Yes, yeah.
That was an interesting thing that didn't make it into the doc, but the manager who had all the stores in Texas and the one in Alaska who was in the doc, he told us a story about Titanic being like the biggest flop that they had because they thought it was going to be so popular because it did so well. And they had run all these ads for the VHS that was coming out, and Blockbuster ordered so many copies because of course everybody's going to want to rent Titanic, but it came out like right before Christmas. And what happened is everybody just bought it. It was one of the first movies everybody owned.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then nobody rented it.
Yeah, they were giving them away. My mom bought a couch that year and they gave her the Titanic tape because I kept trying to remember why we had it because I knew I had such a disdain for the movie. Like I saw it in the theater and that was enough. And then she was like, yeah, it came with the couch. Remember? I was like, oh God. Yeah. So yeah, they were giving.
We had it and I don't remember where it came from either. But I think everybody had it.
Yeah.
Like you said, it just showed up.
And
so then no one would rent it. So they had all these copies. So then anyone who didn't have it bought it from Blockbuster for $2.99 previously viewed.
And it was that 2 tape situation too. Super annoying.
It helped me out because I only wanted to watch when the Titanic was sinking. So I only ever watched tape 2.
That's awesome.
I'm like, I don't need the romance. Just give me the action.
So it seems like you're still very much into physical media. What do you feel about like the discourse of physical media versus streaming? Do you feel like you just have room for both, or do you miss, having just physical media?
Well, I don't miss it because I still have it. It didn't go away. It's not
right.
Like when your favorite movie leaves Netflix and it's gone from there. Like,
Right.
I never don't have that copy of Beetlejuice right back there, or Terminator 2. Like, that, it's just there. I
Yeah.
guess if there were a fire or if they were a flood, I would not have them. But it does bum me out, the less and less they're available. You know,
Yeah.
like I used to buy a lot of movies at like Best Buy or Target when I was there for other things, but I don't often have occasion to go to Best Buy anymore because everything's online. And so every time I do, you notice that like the movie section is smaller than it was
Yeah.
before. You know, Target used to have like 4 aisles, and now it's 2, and half of one of them is just toys based on movies, and the other half is vinyl records of soundtracks of movies. And all of a sudden you're like, if it's not a Marvel movie, you can't get it on DVD, except for you kind of can because of the internet. Like a lot of people, indie people, like we put out a VHS of The Last Blockbuster and it sold really well. But that's to collectors and to people who value physical media, and there's fewer and fewer of us as time goes on. There's definitely room for both. There has to be, because so many movies now, there is no physical version.
Yeah.
There's no, you know, if you don't watch it on, you know, Paramount Plus or Peacock or Apple Plus or whatever the thing that it lives on is, it's not like you can go to a video store and rent it. Although that was something that struck me as very ironic when I first started going to the Blockbuster there, is they had all the Netflix shows on DVD. So like you could go rent Stranger Things at Blockbuster, and it just seems so bananas to me.
I also think it's just hilarious how there's certain movies that aren't streaming, and when you go and try to buy it like physically, for example, 200 Cigarettes was not streaming anywhere, and on DVD on like eBay it was almost $200 to get it. Luckily they did a release, but I think it's the music sometimes that holds it up. Sometimes studios are just sitting on it because they don't think people want to see it, but that kind of sucks too when you really want to watch it and you can't find it anywhere.
Yeah. Well, like Dogma, it will never be streaming, so I have my Dogma DVD that I clutch tightly.
The Dogma VHS right there. Dogma next to Chasing Amy.
Yeah, and like my VCR just broke, and so I'm like, I have to. I told my husband, I'm like, we have to go to like all the Goodwills here to try and find a VCR, because like you try and buy one online and they're like $200 or $300. They're insane.
Crazy.
So I'm like
5 working VCRs, and it's only because, you know, when one breaks, then it goes.
Yeah.
There's nobody who will repair a VCR anymore.
Nah, I've been trying to work on converting all our home movies from VHS to digital, just because of the deterioration. And so, yeah, our VCR broke, and I'm like, I'm not done with my project. I have to find another one.
And listen, I don't have any like delusions that VHS is the superior format or anything. They look terrible. They're cumbersome. You have to rewind them. They deteriorate over time. But much like have people listen to music on vinyl now, and it's this sort of nostalgia, I still get a kick out of the feeling of taking it out and putting it in the machine and pushing play and rewinding. And I appreciate the movies more that way, but it's not how I watch movies.
Yeah.
It's like in the background, there's the TV right there. I put on a VHS while I'm working or something, and that's fun for me because of, you know, it's my childhood.
Yeah,
a lot of my VHSs are like Ninja Turtle cartoons or Spider-Man cartoons and like stuff I grew up with, or Pauly Shore movies that, you know, I'm not gonna go seek them out for streaming in 4K in the living room, but here in the basement I'll watch VHS tapes. It's a basement medium.
Very much so.
Well, I feel like, you know, you're a big part of even the free Blockbuster movement that started. I feel like it started around the time of the pandemic. It might have started a little bit before, but I think that's amazing that people are just sharing videos and DVDs and not paying for it. So it's like little free Blockbusters on different corners.
Yeah, I love that concept. I remember the person who started it, I believe, was a friend of mine. So somebody had like texted me because we were already working on the movie, but it wasn't out. So people knew like, hey, this guy's doing a Blockbuster documentary. And we almost put it in the movie as like a side thing towards the end, but it didn't fit. And they weren't really catching on until, like you said, after. Right around when the movie came out, they were starting to pop up everywhere. But I love that. I always see those little free libraries, in my neighborhood with books in them. I don't read books. Put a VHS copy of Mad Max in there, and now I have a use for your free library. But
Yep.
It's all books here in the Pacific Northwest.
So how did you get into directing?
I used to play in bands. I'm a musician, and I played in ska bands. I'm a trumpet player. There's a lot of people in a ska band, and everybody tends to have like a job. Like you make the t-shirts and you write the songs or, whatever. And I made the videos. So I would make music videos, and then, I was a Flash animator. Like Flash used to be part of the internet. You guys remember?
Yes.
Until Apple killed it. But as that was dying, I got a camera and I was doing these music videos, and I had to figure out a way to make some money. So I started doing commercials and real estate videos and wedding videos and anything. I own a camera, please hire me to do something.
Right.
It was basically my job for a few years. And it went well. In Washington, D.C., there was plenty of work. I was, between weddings, real estate, commercials, music videos, whatever I could point a camera at, I had a decent job, and I didn't have to. I had basically replaced Flash animation with video, which is what the internet did. We replaced Flash animation with videos. So I'm just doing whatever the internet's doing. But then when I moved back to Oregon, from there just wasn't enough work. I moved to this small town, Bend, Oregon, and there's, a lot of creative people out here. So there were like 10 other people who were already well established doing that stuff. And I was just like, I think I could make a documentary. I think my skill set transfers. And I asked my wife if I could try doing that instead of getting a job. And she said, you can have 1 year. And if you could figure out how to make money making movies, you don't have to get a job. And that was 7 years ago now. And I haven't had to get a job. So
Oh, that's amazing.
Nice.
it worked out.
Big ups to the wife.
Yeah. And that, I hear that from a lot of like indie filmmakers. Like if you have a partner that can get you health insurance, then you can be an indie filmmaker. But otherwise, it's very hard.
Yeah.
Because you make a movie and there's no money until it's done, right? Until you sell it, you're just working for free.
So you have your Last Blockbuster Instagram account. Do you make a social account every time you make a new movie? Was this one kind of a little different? Because you keep it up.
I do. So I'm on my 4th movie. 2 of them have social accounts, partly because we did Kickstarter campaigns to raise the money to make them. And that's a huge part of crowdfunding, is you have to have a social media presence.
Right.
And you want to build it before you launch a Kickstarter or whatever. So I had started them. And with the Blockbuster thing, just people are engaged. So it keeps me, I have social media. I don't use Facebook much for myself, but for my movies, I do, because it's fun to engage with people who like the same things. It's like a group, like a Facebook group or
Right.
Whatever. And so I enjoy those, but once the movie is out, obviously you want to promote it and you stay on it. But I'll go months now without checking on those. As you who may have messaged me on there can attest, I have like 6 Instagram accounts, and it doesn't always tell me if I have a message or not. So it's fun to do that. And our TikTok, which somebody told me make a TikTok at a film festival, they're like, you should Blockbuster. Older people are getting on TikTok, and I did not believe her. And we got on there, and it's by far the most popular platform for us. We have a ton of followers, and the TikToks go viral. And it's just, I go to Blockbuster and pan the camera around, but that's the TikTok,
Well,
we don't dance.
we love your TikTok, so that's great. And it is really cool because it does help you grow pretty quickly, unlike some of the other platforms.
Yeah.
It's fun, and you don't have to, like, everyone thinks you have to dance. You don't have to dance. I think people just want to connect, and they want to see their favorite things. And the way that the algorithm works, it will just show you the things that you're interested, almost like it's reading your mind. It's kind of creepy sometimes, but that is really cool. I do hope that you keep up the Blockbuster account because it's really fun. You find like really cool things that we don't catch all the time. So we're like, ooh, this is a good one. I'll share.
Again, it's because everybody tags me and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's easy to run an Instagram for Blockbuster when every time I open Instagram, 20 people have tagged me in some Blockbuster meme or some, every time somebody goes there, they tag us. Like, there's pictures, and they're fun. I love just like sharing that with the community. It's like, what a fun way to experience it. Because I'm like 3 hours away from Blockbuster now, so I don't get to go there very often.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been nice to just live vicariously through the tourists who do go there every single day.
Yeah, that's amazing. So many people go there. It's like a national monument now. Everyone wants to go make a trip there, which is great.
It kind of is. Yeah. I mean, I think it should get some kind of landmark status.
It should, like seriously, it really should. We hope to go one day, and maybe if we're lucky, we can record an episode there, because that would be so meta for us.
My producer Zeke did do a podcast from there for a while, wow. And it was fun because they would do it in the store and just kind of interview people who popped in.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about? And that was cool. That was like, early 2019. It was like right pre-pandemic, I think. So it was hard to keep that up when COVID hit, but you definitely could and should go to Blockbuster and record an episode there. But it is a little disappointing when you get there because they don't have one of the big ticket signs, like Blockbuster used to have. They have one on the building.
Yeah.
It's a decent size, but their big sign that you can see from the street is just like a strip mall sign and has it drawn on it. Yeah,
it's probably, monument signs are so expensive, so I can understand why they don't have it. And they just never had one, right?
They never had one. This wasn't the biggest store in the area.
Yeah.
It's weird that it's the last one, but it's not a huge store, and it's kind of in a little strip mall behind a gas station. Like, I feel happy and also sad for the people who drive a really long way to come visit the store. Because I see every time we're there's somebody, we just drove up from San Diego or from South Dakota or something. And they're happy, they're excited, and it's cool. But like, whatever your Blockbuster was that you used to go to, this one's probably smaller. It's probably like a little not as nice as the big ones.
So we worked in some really sketchy Blockbusters.
Yeah. We also had some bougie ones too.
We did.
Yeah.
I worked at the one in Boca Raton. So we just got like the old people coming in, and so it was busy all the time because they were retired with nothing to do. And so they would come in with their nurses and rent videos.
Honey, can I pay you to come to my house and
set up the DVD
player? No, that's not what I do.
When Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon came out, we would get DVDs thrown at us. I want this in English. It's like,
or like, there's all these words on my screen. What's with these words? You mean the captions? Because it's in another language. They were pissed.
They were mad about anything that was subtitled, and they were mad when it wasn't full screen. I'm missing part of the picture. There's black bars.
Black lines.
I finally printed out. I found a still from The Mummy where it's like full screen. The mummy is cut out, the character, and I like printed signs with like lines and diagrams and arrows and stuff. And I would just like take my plexiglass sign and be like, "Look, you actually see more of the movie." Like, oh,
yeah, it was a mess. Like, Jackie was there when they were going from VHS to DVD. That was a nightmare. I'm glad I wasn't there for that.
I was there from VHS to DVD, and I was also there from midnight returns to noon returns. And then I worked there for 7.5 years. We went through a lot of transitions. And then I was also there when we transitioned to no more late fees.
Which downfall.
Oh, as soon as like they told us about it, I'm like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Sure, we're
gonna work.
do that?
It works in the sense of like the free blockbusters, right?
Right.
That works. And it worked like when Netflix first came out and they mailed you discs, and Blockbuster did the same thing. It works for that because they want you to keep it longer, because then they don't have to send you another one.
Right.
It does not work when you only have 3 copies of Dogma and no one brings them back.
Yes. And that was the issue when American Beauty came out, because it hadn't yet been nominated for an Oscar when Blockbuster placed the orders for it. And so we only had like 12 copies, and then all of a sudden it was Oscar nominated and then Oscar winning. The amount of angry people that we did not have enough American Beauties in stock was insane. And we're like, and they're like, well, we want to buy it. It's in its rental phase. It's $100 to buy if you want to buy it. Well, I'm not paying that. I don't know what to do for you. I'm sorry. I make $9 an hour as an assistant manager at Blockbuster. Please don't yell at me.
Yeah. It's crazy because Sandy still has to play that game, but there's no other, she doesn't have people to turn to be like, how many copies do you think I should get of, of the new Spider-Man?
Yeah.
I guess 30, maybe 40, who knows? But at least they're not $100 anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's crazy in the documentary where she is like literally going to like Target and buying DVDs and stuff. And like we also worked at a corporate store, not a franchise. So like we were just sent things. Yeah, and I'm like, she goes shopping for all the candy at Costco. Like that's bonkers.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
Like a mom and pop small business. It's a store just like you or I could open. The only difference is they still get to use the name.
Yeah. Does she have like a plan of how long she foresees herself doing this? You know, it seems like it's her and her family are committed to this project.
Yeah. So I was just there, and because their merchandise, their online sales are doing so well, the t-shirts and the coffee mugs and DVDs of the Last Blockbuster, if anybody wants one, because it's all doing so well, they've taken over another shop in the strip mall. And she has her mom working over there, filling orders online, and her son.
Oh, wow.
Like it really is a family business. And because all of that is doing so well, I don't think there's any plan to close. I mean, what's tricky, like you saw in the movie, is they are on a year-to-year license with Dish. I can't imagine why they would terminate it on Dish's end. It doesn't make sense. Like, what an awful thing to do.
Right.
When the world needs goodness and hope, why would you just like shut down the Last Blockbuster for no reason? But the other thing is, they lease the space. They don't own the building. Right. So at any time when their lease runs out, they could, again, it's like a landmark. What kind of landlord wouldn't renew their lease?
Yeah.
But there has been talk in Bend, because it's not like that nice of a part of town. It's kind of like midtown gas station, like it's transitioning a little bit.
Yeah.
So there is talk in the city of like, hey, we're going to redo this whole area and put in these new buildings. And I think if that happens, it wouldn't make sense to like shut down during construction and then put in a brand new building, because it would lose all of its charm.
Yeah.
Right.
It wouldn't be the Last Blockbuster. It would be a new Blockbuster.
Right.
Which they could do because they still have the license for the name, but it would, to me, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So my assumption is if and when that happens is when they'll have to close, is when the building gets torn down.
Oh God. We gotta get there soon.
I have no information that that's actually happening soon or at all. I've just heard mumblings about like, we're going to update the city, the Midtown area, and do this thing because it's in decline. And it's where the Radio Shack used to be and these other things. And there's like I said, they were able to rent another space in the strip mall because there's nothing there.
Yeah. Well, we need to start raising money
Petitioning
to buy
to
the
have
damn
it.
plaza, and
It
then no
needs
one
to
can
be-
touch it.
Needs to be a historical landmark.
Yeah. It really, like, honestly, I don't know how it couldn't fit for historic landmark status at this point.
We'll
Well, I
start
think because it
Googling.
opened in 1999. It's not very
It's
I mean, it
historic
was before
to
that. Blockbuster, that one opened in 99, so it doesn't quite make, I don't know what the rules are for landmark status, but it seems like it should be older than that.
Well, that's also because we think 1999 wasn't that long ago.
It's true.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm still 100% convinced 1990 is 10 years ago. And
Yeah.
will always be 10 years ago.
It blows our minds that we're doing movies and we're like, we're celebrating the 20th anniversary of Spider-Man. And then we're like, wait, what? 20 years.
Men in Black is 25.
No,
Yeah.
that just came out.
Can't tell me otherwise.
Yeah.
Well, throughout your career, do you have a favorite body of work that you're most proud of so far?
I mean, I'm probably most proud of the Last Blockbuster, mostly because of what it did, like in the meta sense of the movie was popular, which brought people to the store, which has allowed the store to stay open, and Sandy and her family to like keep doing this, and it, you know, brought all this notoriety and credit to her because I think she deserves it. And I think, you know, if we were able to help by making some silly movie, like help keep Blockbuster alive a little bit longer, then
Mhm.
I'm always going to be super proud of that. That's, you know, whether the movie is what it is and you can love it, you can hate it, people do both. But the fact that we actually accomplished, very few documentaries impact the thing that they're documenting in the way that we did.
Yeah.
And that's pretty rad, I think.
It is rad. And this movie is not silly at all.
No.
It's silly parts.
It's fun.
It's puppet.
I would say it's fun, but the fact that you brought two grown women to actual tears, it was not a silly movie because
Like I said, you're the target audience, people who worked at Blockbuster. If we can't affect you guys, then
I was surprised that it was able to melt my very cold heart because I was like, ugh, if I have to stack another one of these damn movies. Jackie was my manager. I was not a good employee.
He was not a great employee.
wow.
I would just be like, my district manager's number is up there. I don't know what else to do.
Oh, what kind of bad employee were you? Did you like do the bare minimum of work, or were you like actively causing trouble?
No, it was if the customer sassed her, she sassed him right back.
I didn't get paid enough to have patience for these rich old biddies trying to be in my face about stuff. So
There was one time she was giving change back to this old man who was just always crotchety. He was a regular. And you know how you like have your hand bowl for change? Danielle looked at him and put his change on the counter and walked away. And I'm like, oh gosh, I'm going to go in the back and count something. I don't know.
if
I
you
don't want to
want
be
manners,
here.
you should have manners. I will give the energy you give me. Okay.
That's
Keep it
not
big,
how
Christine.
retail works.
Obviously, I didn't make it. Obviously, I have
I'm
moved
still
on.
working at Blockbuster.
No, and I'm not working in retail because
No.
if Jackie wasn't my boss, I sure would have had a lot of write-ups for sure. So
I still, to this day, every once in a while, I'll have a dream that I have to like cover a shift and I can't remember how to work the register. There's a huge line. Like I can't remember the codes to key in. It's a problem. That 7.5 years did a lifetime of
damage.
I think it would come back. I've been in the store when former employees come in, because a lot of former employees make the pilgrimage and they come in. And because they haven't updated the computers at all, like people will come and type in their store code and do their thing. And it's like, it's crazy to me. Like, I never worked in retail. I tried to work at Blockbuster, but they wouldn't hire me. But I don't remember anything about jobs I worked years ago, 20 years ago. And these people come in and they're like, oh, is the code for this still this? Oh, yep. Can I, oh, late fees. And it's like, wow.
Yeah. Oh, I
It's
know.
quickly.
The first store I ever worked at, the store number was 12176. The last store I worked at was 12145.
Hmm.
I have my Blockbuster card like right here.
Taylor asked me if I remember anything.
Wow. What was the name of the guy who did the change?
Don't remember.
Don't remember.
Don't
Yeah.
remember anything.
Yeah. Just a job. But
Just a job.
but that's the thing. Like, I was talking to Sandy the other day about some former employees there because she has like barbecues and people come back. And she said they used to, when they would leave, they would like do a ritual where they'd burn their uniform and like leaving Blockbuster. And now all of them have come back and been like, why did I do that? Why don't I have anything to remember that time?
Yeah.
I have one of my shirts and it's a long sleeve shirt. Like I said, I worked in South Florida, but I was always cold. So I ordered the like forbidden long sleeve Blockbuster shirt. And so I still have that. I still have 2 of my name tags. And then I have a ton, they're all here, of like my promotional shirts.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
You have your Joyride one too, right?
Yeah, I have Joyride. I have the one. So in 2004, when Hurricane Wilma came through, all of South Florida was out of power for like a week. But because I worked in Boca, everyone had generators or cars with DVD players. And so we were told we had to open every day until you couldn't see in the back of the store. So we hand wrote all transactions for a week. And then when the power finally came back on, I had to sit and enter into the computer all of those transactions. And this is the shirt they sent me. It's ridiculous. So it's logo on front, clip art.
Oh, God.
That's what we got for working for a
That's
week.
amazing.
No AC until it got dark in the store. And then we had to kick customers out. So that's that's the level of commitment I have.
So it's weird because we watched your documentary and all the nostalgia good feelings came and we forget all the insanity that we
did that on purpose. We didn't want to make people sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we also, because we were in South Florida, like we had Blockbuster golf and games here that we used to go to. Like, so we had a little extra Blockbuster energy in South Florida. It was kind of neat.
Cool.
And I had told my mom and my dad, I'm like, I'll get a job senior year in high school, but I am only applying to Blockbuster. And if they don't hire me, I'm not getting a part-time job. And they hired me. So.
So I applied 3 times at 2 different stores and I never got past, there was like a computer screening like job thing and I could never get past it. I don't know what's wrong with my psychological profile.
Right.
Or
It's the
whatever.
personality test.
The personality test.
Yes.
And they just never called me back. And it was, so I was like the program they had where you could rent unlimited in a month. You paid like a monthly fee. And you
Yeah.
go as much
The
as you
movie
want.
pass.
Movie pass. Yeah. I was a movie pass person. So I was in that store. I lived across the street for a while. Like literally you could see Blockbuster out of my window. And I would go there 3-4 times a day. You know, I was also in the era where you could burn copies of DVDs illegally. So I would just go and just, oh, what else do I want to own? This. And then just like I'd bring movies back faster than I could have possibly watched them. You know? And I always wondered if that was maybe why they didn't hire me, but I think I just failed a robot personality test.
I feel your pain. I tried to apply at Jackie's store because obviously I wanted to work with her and I did not make the cut because they weren't hiring at her place. So I was really sad, but Jackie was like, you should apply to a different Blockbuster. The only one that was hiring at the time was a little bit further from my house. And I did the whole process and I did get in. at that Blockbuster. Later on, I was able to work with Jackie a few times.
Once you're in, you can transfer like, hey, we have a position open. Just ask if you can transfer to my store.
Well, I'm in now and there's no place to transfer to.
Right? There's only one store left.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, I would have been great. I love
You would have.
I enjoyed interacting with movie people, and just, I don't know what, I answered the questions honestly, and maybe I'm some kind of terrible person. But Blockbuster Computer knows.
And it was a long test. Like, people would sit there for hours answering, and it was like, it looked like a TTY, like it had a tiny keyboard that you had to type on, and it looked like a telephone, but it was like a weird computer thing. I applied before they had that. It was just a piece of paper.
Oh, so we don't even know if you would have made it or not.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah. I wish somebody would put those tests online now.
Yes.
Oh my God, yes.
And like, tell me how I failed. Like, what did I get the DMV where they tell you got these questions wrong, come back next week.
And it
There was
wasn't
none of that. There was just no callback.
Well, what projects are you working on now?
I am currently editing my next feature, which is a documentary all about Build-A-Bear Workshop.
Ooh.
How did we stumble into Build-A-Bear?
They found me. They liked the last Blockbuster, and they were like, we're making a documentary. We want you to direct it. And I had so many questions, just like with Blockbuster. And I'm like, what is this? What is the story here? And it's been really fun figuring that out, and hoping to have that done later this year and out as soon as, I don't know, a streaming platform wants it, because I can't just do DVDs anymore. There's only one Blockbuster to rent them at.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, it's also sad that it's, if Blockbuster fell and all the other, I think Family Video, which we see in Stranger Things in this season and last season, they closed their doors. I want to say last year, 2021.
I remember, again, everybody tags me in these things, but I wanted to go because when they were closing, they were selling off all their like fixtures and things.
Yeah.
Like, I have, this is from an old Hollywood video. It's like the neon sign from the outside of the building.
That's so cool.
And I have dibs on some Blockbuster stuff if they close, but I love that kind of stuff. There was never a Family Video near me, so
yeah, it's on the East Coast, like Delaware.
East Coast and Midwest, I think, has them or had them. But I grew up in California and Oregon, and we had local stores, and we had Hollywood Video, and we had Blockbuster.
Yeah. Yeah. RIP. It's really sad. There's this experience of going on a Friday, like you felt like you had somewhere to go, and
yeah, it's just not the same turning on a thing and pushing a button.
Yeah.
There's more movies, I guess, but you don't get to see the stupid box art that has nothing to do with the movie, and you can't get tricked. You're never gonna like get fooled into watching some terrible movie because the box was cool and then you drove it all the way home, so now you have to watch it. Like, now I turn on Netflix, and if the movie sucks in 5 minutes, I don't watch it.
Right.
Yeah.
It cost me nothing. Took no time to go get it.
There's nothing better than putting a VHS into a dedicated VHS rewinder and just hearing the fast whir. And then when it's done, it makes that like horrible pop noise. I
have one right over here. Because of that, I'm not trying to save the motors in these old VHS players. I love a standalone device that has one function, and it's to rewind a videotape.
Yes, exactly. And we had like 5 of them on top of the quick drop.
Yeah.
And so as people didn't rewind, we would throw them in and
I just remember it's like muscle memory, just throwing them in, pop, 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 and then letting them rewind, pull them out. I just like, my hands just remember doing all of the things with the DVDs and putting the yellow thing in for it's just,
that's what we could do, Danielle, is like a former Blockbuster employee Olympics.
Yes.
Because I guarantee no one can like alphabetize and reshelf as fast as I can.
Yes, true. Jackie,
like, I had a system. I know cover art Like I will have never seen the movie and I'll know who's in it and what the cover box looks like.
We could, like, if Jackie and I were a team with that cover art stuff,
Mhm.
never seen some of these movies, but I think somebody was on one of our episodes and they brought up like some Midsummer Nights version of Rave.
Yeah.
We'd never seen it, but as soon as we saw the cover, we're like, oh, we remember. Yeah.
Oh.
That would be fun. That would be
Yeah.
so much fun to do.
That's
at
a really
Blockbuster
neat to
Olympics.
do that on your road trip. Do it at
Yes.
these locations.
Let's see how
Take it on
many.
tour.
We should reach out and say, hey, like, let's invite some old Blockbuster employees to come out for an event and
Mhm.
set up the games.
Is this the point where I get to meet Paul Scheer because he was a former Blockbuster employee?
You invite him. Maybe ask him to be a judge.
Yes.
Like who did it the best.
You have to come be a judge too, Taylor.
Yes.
I would be happy to, but I never got to work at Blockbuster. But
It's
you could
fun.
do that at the store. I bet Sandy would be into that
Yeah.
because you'd need like how are you going to do restocking the shelves unless you have shelves?
Right.
Yes, you're so right. Oh my God, yes. And we could even do some role playing to see who could handle a horrible customer the best.
I hate role playing.
Oh, I wanna be
That's
the
all
horrible
you.
customer.
Oh my God, that would be so much fun. We
That would be a
definitely,
blast.
yeah. Well, we are so thankful that you came on the show and took some time. Can you share your social handles and links and everything so people know, one, where to buy the DVD, where to find you and interact with your content and see more of your movies?
Yeah. Well, the best place to get the DVD is from Blockbuster. They're our favorite retail location. And I think their URL is bendblockbuster.com. They have the DVD there. And if you order it from there, an actual kid in a Blockbuster uniform puts it in the little thing and mails it to you. It comes from the store, which is to me cooler. And, if you're lucky, you open it up and there's a little bit of the smell in the thing with it because it came from Blockbuster. Obviously, you can watch it on Netflix if you're that kind of person. I mean, Netflix is great. They pay my mortgage. I have a lot of social handles, but for this case in particular, we're on TikTok at Last Blockbuster, Instagram Last Blockbuster Movie, Facebook The Last Blockbuster. I think we have a Twitter, but the other Last Blockbuster Twitter is so popular that we can't get any traction. So just follow that one. They're very fun.
And you can find us at No More Late Fees on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
And as always, be kind and rewind.